Welcome to LEAPCAST. I'm your host, Dr. George James. LEAP stands for Leaders, Entertainers, Athletes, and Performers. And I'm on a journey to connect with high achievers and highlight their unexamined human moments. Tune in to learn how these high-achieving LEAP individuals were able to reach their greatest potential, face their most difficult challenges, and embrace the human moments that helped them along the way. If you want to get the episode highlights directly in your email, then head to theleapcast.com right now to subscribe. Welcome everybody back to LEAPCAST, where we talk to leaders, entertainers, athletes, and performers. And I'm excited for my guest today, friend by mutual friends, and we've known each other now for a few years, Jamar Jones, who is just amazing. And like all my guests, he's just dope. Jamar, thanks for joining me today.
Oh man, so glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Dr. George James. I gotta think of my full name.
The full name.
Yeah.
Well, look, I appreciate you joining me. And, you know, the way I like to start off is by really trying to share your leap story. So it's really about trying to go early, like to share a little bit about your early days, maybe growing up,
Okay.
household, siblings, kind of what started you on your journey. So if you don't mind, let's start there.
Oh, absolutely. Grew up in Philadelphia, not in West Philadelphia, born and raised, but in Northwest Philadelphia, Mount Airy. I
Okay.
grew up in the Mount Airy section of Philly. Where do I start? I have like this amazing memory about every little thing and how it's all kind of tied together in a
Well,
thread.
share it, and we'll get somewhere with it. So it's all
Okay.
good.
So I'm the third boy of four children. I was number three in the line. My mom and dad, George Itis Jones Sr., my mom, Barbara Jones Jr., gave birth to me. They were really trying to have a girl, but I ended up being a boy. So hence they had one more try, and that one more try was my baby sister, who,
Okay.
so they finally got the girl thing, but I'm not a girl, obviously. Nevertheless, in my journey, my dad died when I was 3 years old.
Oh wow.
So my sister was what, maybe 7, 8 months old or so, and I was three, just 2, 3 months shy of my 2 months shy of my fourth birthday. So my first memory of my father is his death.
Yeah.
All right, so that's how life starts for me. And then I start playing the piano when I was 4 years old. My mom bought a piano. She really bought the piano. She bought the piano for my other brother, my second oldest brother, Gerald, who wanted to, take piano lessons. So in those days, the older siblings had to take the younger ones around. We didn't have all this child care and all this elaborate stuff.
Right,
We
right. You
had to
going
go
with
to
your brother.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I went with him to the West Oak Lane School of Music,
Okay.
right off of Cheltenham Avenue. That's where he was getting lessons, and I would sit in a room with a piano while he was learning. I guess God had given me this gift, the ability to be able to hear, so I could hear it,
Wow.
and I was sitting at the piano trying to pick out what I heard. So
Wow.
that's literally how my journey started on the instrument. Incidentally, I will say this one: I come from a deeply spiritual family, Christian family, and my father, who was a preacher in his own right, uh, a couple days before he passed, he spoke about this amazing gift I would have of music and how I would play the piano and travel all around the world.
He literally spoke that into your life before passing.
Yeah, before I was conscious enough to understand it, and in the presence of my brothers. Now, my oldest brother, which is why I probably say your name so much, Dr. George. My oldest brother's name is George.
Nice.
So, like, and George has recalled that memory for me,
Nice.
and those things that happened in that moment. So, fast forward, I start playing the piano. Of course, Jerry stops playing the piano. I keep playing it, So 8, 9 years old, I'm playing the piano. I learn how to play by ear before I go to real formal training. And I learned to start, all the mechanics of music theory and
Mm.
composition and all that stuff. I'm playing in grade school. I went to Shellmont Elementary School. They had the Shellmont Academic Music Program, of which I was both I guess a prodigy musician and also an athlete. I
Well,
got the award for the athlete and academic person of the year, that kind of stuff at graduation and all
You
that kind of
cleaned up
good
all the
stuff.
awards.
I was trying, I was an overachiever, I thought in my brain I was going to be like the next Allen Iverson, even though he didn't exist yet. That was going to
Right.
be me.
Right.
So obviously that didn't happen, But then we go on Shelmont. I'm winning awards as a musician. I get into high school. I go to Central High School,
Okay.
where I played both the trombone and the
I've been
piano.
around enough Central people enough that I gotta ask, what's your number?
254,
That's right.
254.
All Central people know. I
Right.
love it.
Oh, I can't say the person's name that is now not famous anymore, but there was a famous person that we
Yeah.
can't say his name. Or can I say his name?
You can
He's
say his name. I mean, he's still a person. So
Yeah. So Bill Cosby didn't graduate from Central, but he went to Central. No, he didn't grad. No, he graduated from Central. That's right. Did he not graduate? I can't remember. For some reason, I thought no. Bill Cosby actually graduated from Germantown High School.
oh, did
He
he?
didn't, yeah,
I
he
didn't
didn't
realize
graduate from Central. He got kicked out of Central.
that.
Yeah, that's fun fact.
Look at
But then when he
that.
became rich, he gave money to Central. I don't know if they
Uh,
returned it like everybody else, but I'm sure,
I
this
don't
is
think nobody returned the money, but that's a whole nother conversation.
a different day. So yeah, I go to Central. I'm playing the piano, and then I get inducted into the. So I was in Philadelphia All City Jazz Band, but
Nice.
then I had the opportunity to try out for the All American High School Jazz Band. Out of so many thousands of students, and I end up an All American in the Grammy All American High School Jazz Band. So I went
Wow.
to the Grammys for the first time when I was 16 years old. All right.
I would. First of all, I love for the first time because we gonna get to that.
Yeah, there have been
but
several times after.
but at 16, you were in the All American Grammy jazz band.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. With all of these amazing musicians that were at my level or higher or better, which of many, some have become like famous dudes,
Wow.
mind you. Like it's incredible how that whole thing happened. And the reason that's important because my first year at the Grammys were they were held at Radio City Music Hall in New York City.
Hmm.
And I was up there, and you knew who opened up the Grammys that year was Whitney Houston.
Wow. My
Whitney
wife and I
Houston.
were just talk. We've been talking about Whitney a lot recently. So wow. So what was that experience like to have Whitney open up the Grammys while you're there?
I mean, I will always love you.
Mm.
And this is the thing. As a young musician, I'm doing this jazz thing, but I'm trying to figure out some things, and I'm observing just the environment. And it was incredible because I saw the light skinned guy that was on the bass. That was Ricky Minor.
Okay.
All right, and I want you. This is real important. Everything I'm about to say because this
Okay.
has something to do with later on.
Yes. All right. We taking notes. Let's go.
Okay. Ricky Minor's on the bass, and then another guy is playing the keyboards. His name was Wayne Lindsey, and he played that famous line that was on the David Foster version of the song that he produced for her. When he came in. So she came in, I mean, in a white dress. I just remember all of that. And even though we were at the Grammys and we were the Grammy All American High School Jazz Band, that whole week was just incredible. One, because they had us doing press, they had us
Mm,
performing at schools.
nice.
We recorded an album.
What?
Uh, we were the entertainment for the Grammy nominee party, which was at the New York Museum of Art.
Okay.
So imagine it's like we're at this amazing venue at this professional thing, and I'm playing, and I'll never forget this guy said, "Man, this older white guy said he came over to me. He said, "Man, you a bad MF on them keys, right?"
Yes.
Because I'm green. I don't know anybody or anything. I was like, yo, thank you. I appreciate that. I was like, what's your name? He said, man, my name is Dr. John.
Mm,
So, Dr. John, the blues dude, like the
okay.
legendary, and then I was from him to guys I met, Kenny Barron, who's a jazz pianist who has since passed, like Kenny Barron. I met so many people in the room that night.
Wow.
Carl Wheeler, who was a part of Harold Wheeler, who was a part of Tony. I met him. Carl Wheeler, not Harold Wheeler, Carl Wheeler. I got a chance to meet him. I got the chance to meet just so many different people. And I'm like young, and the thing is, these stars, these were the people nominated for Grammys
Yeah.
they're telling us how talented and gifted we are, and I'm trying to figure this out. Like, how do we get to where you
You
are?
are. Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So we sat in the rafters in the nosebleeds of the Grammys that first year in 1994 that was in New York. And hold up, I gotta tell you this one thing which is so funny. So we stayed at the it was back then I think it was the Hemsley Palace Hotel, whatever. The New
Okay.
York, then they changed the name to New York Palace. So we walked over to Radio City from the Palace. So we stayed at this 5-star hotel, a bunch of teenagers, right? Mind you. And we walked to the venue and with our chaperones, so to speak.
Hmm.
They weren't really chaperones, but they were trying. And when we got to the around the corner to come in the main entrance, it was like a crowd, and it was like you see like thousands of people everywhere. And when I got to the red carpet, like the crowd just started cheering. Like it was so crazy, right? I had on this blue coat with this fur collar.
Okay.
Like,
You like, I'm 16, but I'm coming fresh.
yo, I was like, yo,
Can't
man.
nobody tell me.
I was like, and the way they started cheering was like, yo, I was like all excited. I turn around and it's Kenny G.
Oh, he's like, boy, get out of here.
He stole my thunder.
Kenny G just walk up, long hair. He's like, it's my spot.
Yeah. So then what happens is we go to get on the elevator because we're not on the main floor. We on the second floor, right?
Hmm.
But I'm getting on the second floor elevator to go upstairs. And who gets on the elevator with me is none other than Chick Corea, who is like my idol.
Wow.
So Chick Corea gets on the elevator. He's like, man, he said, where are you kids coming from? Like, I was just like, oh, we the American Grammy All American High School Jazz Band. He's like, oh man, that's great. So we talking, and that's cool. That's another reason that meeting was so important because he didn't even have to remember me, but our
Wow.
paths are going to cross again.
Wow.
You know, so everybody that I'm talking about,
Yeah,
everybody I met that night and interacted with, at some point in my career, our paths are crossing again,
that's great.
right? So what that taught me is that just like you and I, we met a couple years ago,
That's right.
and now our paths have crossed again.
Hmm.
So I've learned to treasure every relationship, every moment. I don't consider any moment as just like a happenstance.
Yeah.
Oh man, this person has something to do with something. So, some people, you go all out on a long trajectory, and then some
Yeah.
people just start to go like this. Like me and my wife is like this,
Yeah.
you
Like
know.
there's something about her. We keep
Yeah,
crossing paths. But
yeah. I
I
see
really
her every day.
right. I really appreciate that. And what I was actually thinking about as you were saying that is that, what if you didn't tap into your talent at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like those years when it got hard, those years when you could have like, I don't really want to do this, and also being an athlete, right? Those years
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we don't even know that we're building and we're growing. And what if you didn't do that to then get you to the All American Grammy Jazz Band that
Man, hold
then
on.
had all those other people connected to you, like where
Mm-hmm.
you now orbit, where you were like connecting with them. it was
Mm-hmm.
it was something that kept you going, and then sometimes we just don't know it. We're kids, we're young folks, and
No,
but it sounds like your passion, your drive, and you kept digging in, that really put the rest of it like on track.
man, it put everything front and center. I mean, every experience in the early years shaped me in some way, including going to Central.
Oh,
So when I was in the Grammy All American Band, I got all of these opportunities for scholarships to go to everywhere from Berkeley to Manhattan School of Music, University of Central Florida. I had scholarships galore. University of the Arts wanted to offer me a scholarship,
wow.
but you know what scholarship I chose and what school I went to?
Where did you go?
Temple.
But all right, okay, all right. Well, from what I've known, Temple has produced, but
Oh, amazing. Like Derek Hodge,
yeah,
I mean Terrell Stafford came on to the faculty when I was probably undergrad or sophomore. And you got these amazing musicians, and I got so many. Micah Jones, who was the director of the School of Music at the dean of the School of Music at the University of the Arts. Micah and I were classmates. That was my friend. Like,
wow,
you got all of these amazing talents, and as such, that assembled. And the reason I chose Temple, one again, back my father died when I was 3, so the reason I didn't leave the city at that point in time is because I felt as though I needed to remain with my mom because I was the only boy in the house.
Okay. The other two
Um,
brothers are already out.
yeah, yeah, they're out and married
Oh.
and
How wait, how
doing
much older are your two older brothers to you?
9 years and 7 years older.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So,
by college they're out doing their own thing.
yep. And I just kind of took on this thing. Maybe I should hang tight, hang close by, because again, what I didn't have is probably I didn't have a male. I had men in my life, but I didn't have like that father that would have said, she gonna be fine, go.
Right, right, right. All right, go
Like,
live your life. We all right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I never even expressed that to my mom because I was like, yeah, I'm never going to say I wasn't going. It wasn't a thought in me to say to my mom, what if I left or went
Mhm.
here or went there? And I'm talking about I was getting opportunities galore, like the Disney All American High School, no, the Disney All American College Jazz Band. They wanted me to become a member of that band. And the thing about the Disney All American College Jazz Band, it was by invitation only.
Mhm.
It was a paid job, like a summer thing. Like they paid you and paid you well. And they offered me that opportunity while I was still in high school, which they said was unheard of.
Yeah.
Like they only accepted college students. Like, they want me to come out as a high school student. And my mom and I, we talked about it. She's like, oh man, I was going to go, live in Florida for a whole summer. And again, I was like, nah, maybe I should just stay home.
Hmm.
For whatever reason, I was wired that way then, at least then. So, say, cool, we make these decisions. And what ends up happening for me is while I'm a freshman at Temple, um, I'm going to Boys and Men Studio. They bought a studio out in Gladwin called Stone Creek.
Okay.
Good friend of mine, big brother to me, Darrell Bottoms, got me. I'm coming to the studio. I could play. I have been kind of around them just for the last couple of years, even through high school. So I'm just coming to the studio. I'm learning
You're
about the
familiar
studio.
with them. You're just kind of like hanging out.
hmm Yep, yep. And just by hanging out, I laid my first record on their album.
Really?
Yep. And I co-wrote and co-produced a song, the only gospel song that they've ever did, which was called "Dear God." That was the first song I produced for them. Wouldn't be the last, but I was like a freshman at Temple when all this happened.
And so once again, I mean, not everybody has this pull, right? Of like, and being able to listen to it. I mean, that's what I'm hearing, right? Like the start of like, you had this inclination of, I should probably stay close to home. I should stay close to my mom.
hmm
And for whatever set of reasons, you had that pull, right? And for some people, right, spiritual folks will say like, okay, they felt like led to do that. Other
Uh-huh.
folks will say like, oh, I just felt like I needed to do it.
hmm
But in listening to that and making that decision, it sounds like that's also just kept opening opportunities, which meant you had to say no to some
Oh,
other things. That is
oh,
the hard part.
yeah. Like I was saying no to things that probably would have maybe set me on a different trajectory.
Um,
However, is a reason why I opened up my computer and sat right here where I'm sitting because my trajectory, the trajectory that I was on, produced all of that right there.
nice.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I meet my wife while we're at Temple.
Okay.
You see,
Yeah.
like she was
Yeah.
at Temple. She was a runner. Her and her twin sister, Aisha, they ran track, and so I met, the woman that was going to eventually become my wife, and then we give birth to these 3 kids. You know what I mean?
That's
And who
awesome.
are all in their own right doing their own amazing things. And I have this trajectory to the point that you just made. I start working with boys and men, not even just boys and men, because then my opportunities would have probably taken me out of the fold before Philly, the whole neo soul
Uh,
music movement became
yeah.
a thing. But because I was around when it became a thing,
Yeah.
and like everybody at Touch of Jazz, they're all my friends, and Vidal and Dre specifically. Vidal's my cousin. Like we are like all of this stuff is happening with music, and then you got Music Soul Child, and then Jill Scott, and then you got Vivian Green, and we wrote on Dear God my first Boys and Men song. That was her first professional song and mine's together,
Wow.
right? So like, and Viv actually sang the demo that they learned the song from, right? So that's a little.
Yeah.
Private fact. No, not
Insider
private.
scoop. Wow.
Yeah. And so like you got like Vivian Green and all these people that are coming up, and I happen to be around because I'm here and I'm local. And this is the thing. I did that. I started producing music, and then I produced the theme song for the Hurricane soundtrack with Boys and Men.
Mm.
And then we did some other songs on some other records, and that was cool. And then got I of course recorded with Vivian, played on everybody's record from Jill to Music Soul Child, everybody in Philly, and then started to branch out. And then it's on the branch out that it just started to happen. So I'm playing for Jill Scott, and Jill did something unique because inside of her show, this was like the Sugar Water Festival. I think that's the festival we were doing one year.
Mm.
Um, she gave me like this little solo section,
Okay.
in her show, which I've been fortunate because that solo section has remained with me anytime I'm out with her, right?
Okay.
Um, Give me a little solo section, and I did like a solo like on keyboard strings, and it's the reason why all of this is important, right? So I was like, this is a little solo, it's keyboard strings, and for whatever reason, it was impressing a lot of people.
Wow.
But you know who was the band director of Queen Latifah's band on that tour?
Mm-mm.
Ricky Minor.
Of course. Going back to Radio
Yeah,
City Music Hall, where
Radio
y'all
City.
was right. Now, but
Right?
how old were you then now? So that was 16 when you first met Ricky. How were
Yeah, I
you?
was 16 when I met him. So then when we come back around to jail, that's 2004 ish, 2005. So I'd be what, 20, 20, I don't know, what's 7 plus 7? 24. Yeah.
Okay. Right. All
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
24, 25. Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
yeah.
that's what I thought. Somewhere around there. Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, almost like a good 8, 9 years later.
Uh-huh. Yep. 8, 9 years later. So it's cool. So what happens is at the end of the tour, we're at the Greek Theater, and I'm doing sound check, setting up my stuff or whatever, putting my computer up, and Ricky comes and he hops up on my riser and he says, "Hey," he says, "Man," he says, I got a show coming up," and he says, "Can you read music?"
Mm.
I said, "Yes, I can."
That's where that
Like,
formal training comes in.
yep, yep,
Sidebar: I know a lot of musicians who are really talented by ear, and then some other really good musicians who can read but not play by ear. It's a
that's true.
few that got that sweet spot that can do both.
Man, when I tell you it's a blessing,
Yeah.
it's because I played a little side note. I played with the Dallas Symphony maybe about 2 3 years ago, and they were doing like a thing called Gospel Goes Classical,
Oh
and they
wow.
were featuring the music of Marvin Winans.
Okay.
Now
Yeah.
this is the thing. I was called because I was the guy that could read the music, but I could flow with him all
That's
at the
right.
same time.
That's right.
You,
Because you got to go when he ripping.
right. And I'm communicating to the other guys in the band here. We going here. Da, 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 da. I was
Yeah.
like, look, but I was saying like, yeah. They're like, where is he at? I'm like, yo, measure 17. And like,
Wow.
he done skipped the whole section. Go to measure 17 now. Like, like,
Right,
you
because
know.
I mean, it's like it's interpreting a whole nother language, and
Hmm.
you have like two languages that listening by ear or playing by
Hmm.
ear, and also knowing the music and able to translate to whoever you're working around. It just, I mean, that's just amazing. Once again, because not everybody can do that.
That's right. You're right. And that's the blessing. So Ricky says, man, can you read music? I'm like, yep, I sure can. He says, cool, you're hired. He says, we're doing tribute to Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
All right. So my first show out the gates with Ricky Minor and the Ricky Minor Band is a tribute to Stevie Wonder on television. Like we did. You remember they used to do the UNCF Parade of Stars thing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was that 2 night event. It was
Oh
like a
wow.
2 day taping. It was stupid, right?
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. So Ricky has me come out, and I'm young, I'm married, I'm nervous. I felt like a failure that whole week, like, because these guys play with Stevie Wonder like regularly, and I'm
Hmm.
trying to figure it out. I'm trying to, learn all the parts, and I'm reading all this music and stuff like that. And Ricky said one thing that literally transformed how I would see anything I would do thereafter. About the third day in or such, I was like, babe, I was telling my
Mhm.
wife, I was like, man, I said they're gonna send me home. Like I just,
The lights are
I,
bright. It feels too much right now.
yeah, the lights was bright. That was so great, right? Ricky says this. He says, man, he says, look, he says, it's only an illusion that the Super Bowl is different than any game you played all season.
Wow.
He says the same game,
Yeah.
same rules.
Yeah.
He says the fact that you're here means that you can play.
That's right.
And for whatever reason,
That's it.
that really calmed me all the way down. And then Ricky just started calling me. He was calling me gig after gig. I survived that one. I was just like, wow. And then, I'm sitting at home one day. I'll never forget. We owned a house in Lansdowne, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I'm at home, and the phone rings, and Ricky says, "Hey, man," he says, "I just got a call from J Records, and the representative says, hey, Ricky, yeah, we're all good for Oprah, like tomorrow, like this, that, and the other." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Yeah, Jamie Foxx has to sing on Oprah like tomorrow."
Tomorrow.
It was like tomorrow. So he picked up the phone and called me, and he says, "Are you?" He said, "Are you available?"
Yes, sir.
I was like, "Yeah, yes."
I'm already at the airport. What you talking
I was
about?
like, "Is that like a trick question?"
Right.
Like
Come on now.
the next day, I'm in Chicago playing on Oprah with Jamie Foxx.
That's crazy.
Like, and this is like Jamie Foxx just won an Oscar. Jamie Foxx, so
Oh,
it's
yeah, he's on tour, Jamie Foxx.
yeah, it's crazy. Everything
Everybody's
was
seen
going
all
on.
his gifts, his talents that they no the whole world didn't know he had all those skills. Now he's putting it out there.
Yep. And it's just like, wow. So literally life is transforming and I'm going from like one level into just another level. And now I'm always in LA and I'm working
Mm.
and we overseas and I'm traveling and so many other things. At the same time, of all of the producers that produced in Philly on Touch of Jazz, the ones that I work with the most would be Dre and Vidal, even though I work with all of them. But Dre and Vidal are now doing like everybody from Usher to,
Wow.
the Mariah, you name it. The list went on and on and on and on. And I was working on all their projects as a string arranger,
Okay.
right? Because get my keyboard string gift was like a real thing. And what I used to do incidentally is I learned how to from Hans Zimmer how to put scores together in the computer world like they did in Hollywood for big blockbuster films.
Okay.
But I was doing it for R&B records. So it was like this whole thing was happening because people started, remember the whole pirating thing, all of
Yeah.
that stuff was going on.
Yeah.
So record labels
Napster.
was, yep, Napster, they struggling, LimeWire, they struggling trying to figure out how they gonna make money. So budgets started being reduced. But I was the guy that like, yo, I can give you an orchestra. So everybody hired me. So I did work for Kanye West, for Rihanna, the list goes on. Fantasia. It was like it went. The list was so long. Mario, Chris Brown.
Wow.
I was working with so many people. The Eminem, like I
And
was
this is like
Jimmy.
what the
This is
2000s,
like
2010.
yeah. No, this is all between 2005 and like 2012. That's when I was going full steam.
And the reason why I said that because those people that you're mentioning, they were like top of the game, like hitting charts, like top of the charts, like
Yep. Yep.
everywhere, killing it, right? Doing a whole bunch of stuff. And
Yep.
I'm wondering from what you're saying, is the solo that you played for Jill, like what also got part of them seeing your talent and ability to do arrange strings?
This is right. This is true. This is
Wow.
very, very true. Even though all right, I got to go back into childhood a little bit because remember I talked about Vidal Davis, who's
Yeah.
Philly. Vidal and I grew up together, and Vidal called me one day and he said, "Hey, when I was a kid, I used to put together these string arrangements in the keyboard. It was a Yamaha SY77. It's,
Shout out to
it's
Yamaha.
yeah, it's Yamaha's first sample based keyboard, right? All right. So anyway, and believe it or not, the first string arrangement that I ever did was from a Philly favorite too. Her name is Carol Reddick.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah.
I
So,
when you mentioned the Yamaha, my friends growing up, I think they had a Roland XP 80 or 90, one of those.
oh yeah, yeah. That's actually newer than the Yamaha I had,
Okay.
which was a SY 77. Like, man, we was so at any rate. Vidal called me one day. This is in 2004, 2005. He said, "Hell, man, you remember how we used to do strings? You used to do strings when we was kids." He says, "Man, would you mind trying that out on a Fantasia record?" I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And the song is called "I Nominate You." You can go listen to it today if you want.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Fantasia. That was the first record, and because of that one album, then I started. It was just like, oh man, the dude that do strings, and then everybody. So then I work with Mary, and of course music. I got all them Jill. I did computer. Those are computer generated strings on Jill's song "My Love," which was
Okay.
produced by Adam Blackstone. So "My Love"
Adam's
that
another one that's
orchestra.
been out there.
Oh, you are absolutely right. So again, like these all these relationships came from early on in life
Yep.
before anybody was, and then you maintain them and
I think that talks
you
about something else too that we don't always remember, right? Like you develop these relationships and you got to nurture those relationships because you never know what's going to pop off. But if
yeah,
you have good, solid people and you're connected,
yep.
like, and you all start to rise and grow together, there's like infinite possibilities.
Well, you know what, let me give your viewers and particularly the young people some wisdom. What you must master is making sure you understand that every person is important.
Yeah.
There are no big eyes and little U's ever in any exchange because one, you never know who's going to be who. But
Yeah.
then two, even beyond that, because then that might be the cause for, well, let me just be nice to this person because they might put me on. But like, no, you know what I tend to do, George? I relate to people for who they really are,
Yeah.
and that's been a gift that God has given me, and which is part of the reason why I'm an executive pastor now, is
Yeah.
because you know, I believe I see people for who they are, and a lot of the people that I've worked with over the years who still keep in touch with me, who I still speak to, and the whole nine, mostly everybody they think of me as a pastor because I was always that guy that was like I was more concerned about them as a person than I
Nice.
was even about what I could get from them.
Wow.
And I think that's just essentially
People feel
important.
that, especially in the
Yeah,
industry. I mean, with people, there's two things I want to highlight. One, when you talked about like, being with Ricky Minor, 3 days in, feeling it, what we don't often talk about, and I was just sharing with an athlete about this. That's performance anxiety, right? The worry, the overwhelming sense of like, can I step up to this new level? And what Ricky Minor did was just kind of like calm you down and say, dude, it's already there. You've already been doing it. So I love how that
yeah,
was a part of it, and just when people hear about the music industry, especially like musicians, artists, and behind the scenes collaborating. We often hear like people are always asking for stuff or needing stuff from people. So when you talk about like you thought about them as a person, I can
hmm
imagine that also made you stand out because you're not trying to like get something from them.
no, no. I mean, I've always firmly believed God would give me whatever it is I needed or need in the moment that it exists. And because of that, I tend to not deify people.
Mm,
But then I also understand, I like, look, man, like whether you Jamie Foxx, whether you the richest person in the world or the poorest person in the world, you are a person, you are a human being, and
yeah.
human beings are to be valued. And what's funny is I'm saying this not because yeah, I'm not gloating. This is not even gloating.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so hopefully nobody takes this way. I was
I
in
don't. I
Chick-fil-A.
love it.
Well, I was in the Chick-fil-A line last week and I ordered on the app. I had to order something real quick, some fries. I ordered frosted lemonade. So right, see, good advertising,
Right,
right?
right there. I need a sponsorship.
And I have a Range Rover.
Uh huh.
Okay, I'm in my car. I get in the fast lane. I go right to the front. This guy gets upset because he thinks that I cut in line, right?
Mm-mm.
And
Ordered on the app.
yeah, and for whatever reason, he put his He put his window down. So I put my window down. I was looking at him. He said, brother, he said, because he was a black dude. He said, man, you just, you just got in front of me like I wasn't even there.
Mm.
And he says, and then he looked at me and he says, and you're not better than me, right? So like, I don't have your level of your credentials, but I am a rational emotive behavioral, therapy life coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at him and I said, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Like,
Where all that come from?
yeah, I was like, "Yo, that's a lot to be unpacking in a 2 second exchange." Like,
I'm just trying to get some food.
yeah, I was just like, but when he said, "Man, you know," I said, "Brother," I said, "I don't think I'm better than you." Like, no, I said, "No, that didn't even cross my mind." I said, "Why don't you just go? You go ahead of me." And he said, "No, you just go." So you like, he's like, he didn't even want to receive,
Yeah.
and what that told me, I said, man, there are a lot of hurting people that haven't had the opportunity to interact with someone maybe that would be on the side, either whether it's forgiveness. So, he told me to go. So I went, I got my food and I just kept going.
Right. Right.
Like, that's the other part. But it was just, the thing is, I thought about that exchange though for a while.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that said, man, if I just had probably 5 minutes with him, I could have changed his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that would have been my opportunity to get him to experience the love of God
Yeah.
in a way that might have been more palatable for him. Because he obviously, when he said, "Man, you're not better than me," I was looking at him, I was just like, wow.
Yeah, there's a right. There's a
Like,
lot that he was processing with everything, and and to that point, for him, there's so many people who are like that or
mm-hmm,
experiencing something and projecting stuff. And
mm-hmm,
once again, a lot of artists that I've been around, athletes, and entertainers, are great
yeah,
people, but are dealing with their own challenges and insecurities.
yeah,
And to have someone that can just see them, right? To have
yeah,
someone that can just ask, "Hey, are you okay?" Right?
mm-hmm,
It doesn't always happen,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and even in that situation, right? Just there's a lot of people that are just living life that sometimes don't feel seen,
yeah,
and quickly will put you in a category. You
mm-hmm,
went faster, that you went ahead of them, you got your Range Rover, and put you in a category that has nothing to do with really who you are.
yeah. We was just in the. I mean, I ordered on the app.
Right? That's it.
So, all right. So then back to the story, right? Which wherever I am in this
Well,
story I'm telling.
you now you're like you're going on tour. You said L.A. You talked about the Jamie Foxx and Oprah.
Hmm.
You're going to L.A. overseas. You're on everyone's album just about.
Yeah,
Going until about 2012. It sounds like
yeah.
that. Uh,
Well, you said something earlier that I think is important because I've been working in music and I still do. I'm working on a score to a TV One movie right now.
nice.
Even in light of my bivocationalism that I have, it's something that you said earlier that you talked about the fact that I probably had to say no to some things.
Yeah.
And in 2007, it was early in 2007 or late in 2006, Ricky Minor asked me to move to LA to become a part of the American Idol band,
Hmm.
right? And the thing is, if you know anything, you talking about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
Super Bowl for musicians,
Okay.
and for so many different reasons. Like,
Hmm.
you know, but my wife was then pregnant with my son.
Okay.
Um, he was still in her belly, and I remember we were in Miami when Ricky asked me. He said, "Man, I want you to think about this." He said, "Man, I need a keyboard player in the Idol band." He said, "Man, would love to have you. Like, man, your
Hmm.
chemistry, like, he's just the whole thing."
Yeah.
And a day later, I came back to him. I thought about it. I told him I thought about it, and I actually prayed about it. And he asked me, he says, "Man, did you think about it?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I don't think I can do it."
Yeah.
And he said, "What do you mean?" Like, I said, "Man, I'm not supposed to. I can't see raising my family in LA." I started saying all these different things, and he says, I think God has something else for me to do." And Ricky, I remember he said to me, he said, "You know how much money you make?" Like,
Right.
I was saying, but hospitals. He said, "Man, we got hospitals in LA." Like your wife. I said, "My wife pregnant." He said, "Yeah, we got hospitals." Like he's, you know. At any rate, I didn't take the gig. I didn't take the opportunity, which again would have been another one of those life transformative things. Uh, and it don't really make sense to me yet.
Mm.
I just know that I turned down Ricky Minor for American Idol. A certain friend of mine who shall remain nameless, he told me he said I was a dickhead.
It's like something wrong with you.
He said, yeah, something's definitely wrong with you. I was like, yeah, I'm not supposed to do it. All right, so you fast forward. So that's in 2006, right? Then in February or so of 2007, we're playing with Mary Mary. I was playing with Mary Mary. We had a show. Me, Omar Edwards, Adam Blackstone, Spanky just on drums, Ray Ray.
Yeah.
Oh, they had just like nice little all star band, right? And we had a gig in I think it was Denver, Colorado. And when I'm sitting in the hotel in Denver, I get a call from a friend who says, "Hey, man, this other guy is trying to open up some school of music or whatever, and yada 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 in Dallas, Texas." And he was telling me about it, but I was telling him like, "Look, man, you really need to talk to Jamar because he knows about all this schooling stuff, whatever, like or whatever." So I said, "Yo, I'll holler at him or whatever." So he called me. He was talking fast and all of this stuff. Yeah, man, I'm gonna bring you down to Dallas. I want you to see. Yeah, Walmart's gonna donate a building. We're gonna open up this music school. We trying to open up a college. We don't went from high school, after school to college. Like it was just like
Like you
what?
talking
Like
real fast.
so we don't went from an after school program to college. Like
Next we gonna be in the pros.
right. So I'm like, okay, so at any rate, I said to him, "Man, why don't I just come down to Dallas and see what it is you're talking about,
Yeah.
whatever." He said, "Okay, yeah, 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 yeah. We fly you down, put you up." I said, "No, no." And for whatever reason, I don't even know why this came out of my mouth. I said, "No, I'll come by myself. Don't worry about it." So I flew to Dallas, Texas, and looked at. I don't even know what I saw, but I didn't see no school. Like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but when I got off the plane in Dallas, I remember coming out the airport and feeling like this is home.
Mm.
It was just a feeling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is strange. It feels like I live here. But I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, cool. So we go around, we look at the stuff, and nothing really comes of that. But I go back home, and I know God put it in my heart that we're supposed to move to Dallas, Texas,
Mm.
right? George, this is so incredible what's about to happen, right? Me and my wife, I tell my wife, I'm giving you the Cliff Note version, but I tell my wife, I think the Holy Spirit is speaking to me and we're supposed to move to Dallas, Texas. She just says, okay.
Wow.
Which my wife is a twin. Her sister, they have another sister, which makes them like triplets. And then her whole family, my whole family, our whole support system, nobody's ever moved away, And granted, and you see my struggle with moving away from
Yeah.
home that I
Yeah.
talked about earlier. Like,
Right. At LA, you already turned that down.
yeah. But I said we're supposed to go to, so we sell our house in Lansdale and
Mm.
everything in it, and we buy a house in Dallas, Texas. And guy has a sense of humor because my house was next door to the head coach of the Charlotte Bobcats, right? So like, we moved to Dallas, Texas. We buy this house. I have I mean, I'm just a touring musician basically,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no reason why the bank should have even sold me that house, right? Right? But it all happens. Like
Wow.
this is great. And I remember once we got there and we're settled, within the probably first month, I had a gig with Jill, the Hampton Jazz Festival. I came back home and I leaned back in the chair and I remember I just said, well, that was her last show because she was about to go shoot some movie with Tyler Perry.
Oh, that's yeah, some movie. Yeah.
Yeah, some movie. It was Why Did I Get Married?
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
She's
figured.
like, yeah, she's just shooting some movie with Tyler Perry. Like, that's when we thought Tyler Perry was a joke too with the movies too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
We didn't know.
They didn't know. So I say to once we get there, I'm like, okay, that was it. This was a nice run. This was great. So now that it's over, this is my wife coming right here. That's Dr. George.
Hey.
You're live on a podcast.
Oh God.
Don't worry, we just talking about you.
Yo, I'll talk about you. I'll tell the story.
Oh God.
um, uh, oh,
Jill
this is
just
beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah,
It's all part of it.
Chick-fil-A.
Hey, look, Chick-fil-A. Look, maybe they need to be a part of this podcast.
Hey man,
Came up.
you got a sponsor.
There it is.
You know. So at any rate, we move to Dallas, Texas. I say jail gig is over. I'm like, I don't know what's supposed to happen now. And by the time I landed, I had a call from Bishop T.D. Jakes from his office. And the call was from Deacon Holloway Gray. He's since passed away. But Holloway was Bishop's childhood. He was his childhood best friend. Okay. Had been with him since kindergarten or such, you know. And Holloway called my house. He said, "Hey, Jamar Jones, this is Deacon Holloway Gray. Bishop Jakes heard that you're in town and wants to meet with you."
He heard you in town. That's great.
First of all, what's funny is Holloway called us on our home phone. We still had a home phone in our little mini mansion. Had a home phone, and I couldn't figure out how he even got that number. Like, for somebody that had been in town for like probably a couple weeks, like he's calling us on our home phone. Like,
yeah,
it was crazy, and that jump started one of the most amazing things in my life. I ended up becoming, at 29 years old, the executive director of music and fine arts for the Potter's House Church.
That's awesome.
You know, so I'm a boy about to grow into a man.
Yeah.
Right. So all at the same time, I'm doing all that other incredible stuff that I talked about. You know, I'm doing all those things, and I am, I'm, you know, career-wise, Adam is now going up. Omar is Jay-Z's music director. O is doing his thing. You know, I'm working on movies. I'm staying, but I'm working in church, and I'm working in this fantastic church system that taught me a whole lot. But about 7 years in, I had this conversation with Bishop Jakes. It was during Christmas. It was during the holiday. And we were talking something about something we were doing. And at some point in the conversation, I just kind of said, you know, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. You know, and he asked me, he says, well, you know, well, what do you want to do? Like this, that, and the other. But all it could really come out of me that day was, I said, Bishop, I'm sick and tired of fixing everything.
Yeah.
And Bishop Jakes is, he's a force to reckon with. He asked me, well, I ended up being at his house on the sitting on his couch later today.
Literally sitting on his couch.
Yeah, sitting on his couch. He asked me, he said, who told you you had to fix everything? Mm. And we go round and round for quite a long time, a few hours, with me trying to answer this question that I couldn't seem to find an answer to. And generally, I was gifted as a leader and as a manager, but I remember getting to a point in the conversation, I said, generally, I would be telling somebody, you need to go to counseling. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him, I said, do I need counseling? And
he probably gave me one of them looks.
Yeah, we both started laughing. He says, well, there's something other than anything, other than the things that you've talked about that's really bothering you.
Yeah.
George, that was the journey and exploration that led me to Fatherless Child.
Which is where which led us to meet it.
Right. Yeah. And that's why we met. It was in a couple of psychotherapy sessions that I discovered that, and I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. You know, the death of my father at age 3 was beyond my capacity to really understand.
Yeah.
However, when I was 9 years old, a Philadelphia school teacher gave the class a Father's Day project as an assignment. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to do the assignment. I didn't have a dad.
Yeah.
Like, but all of the other kids in the class seemed like they were excited about creating something for their dad. So what I did was I thought I was, tricking someone. I addressed the project to a neighbor across the street who had the same last name as me. His name was Ernest Jones. His son Shannon Jones was like my childhood best friend. So like we used to call ourselves cousins.
Yeah.
Still very close to this day. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll address it to Ernest Jones, and then nobody will know that I don't have a dad. At least they'll know I'm working on the project because I have something. Well, that was the birth of Jamar Jones, the fixer, right there.
Oh,
And at that point in time, I would fix my way through every situation. And that's how I would see life as this is something that needs to be fixed,
yeah.
And as a result, I became a man that told you what I thought, but I very rarely told anybody how I felt.
Hmm.
I had no emotional language to really tell people how I felt. Because in that moment, what I did is I solved the problem without telling anybody how I felt,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And as a result, I say this it was through the grace of God that I was given a gift
Hmm.
that allowed me to not implode emotionally
Yep.
because it was always coming out.
Yeah.
That's the reason why, you know, I didn't commit an aggravated assault because
Hmm.
I could take it out in Rachmaninoff C sharp minor
Hmm.
prelude on the piano.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like
No,
I could give the
100%.
expression of my heart. I George, I couldn't even tell my wife how I really felt about her at our wedding.
Mm.
So I played a Billy Joel song.
You right. You
Like
literally express yourself through music, but
oh,
to actually be that vulnerable and transparent through your own words, you were blocked.
oh
You
yeah.
were
Hmm.
stuck,
Yeah.
and like you said, so many people have had those hurts, traumas, pains, and they don't know how to deal with it,
Hmm.
or that it's even there. At 9 years old, you're not really saying what's happening. It feels weird. It feels uncomfortable. It feels embarrassing. I feel
Yeah.
shame. It's all of
Yeah.
that. And I
All
don't
of
know how to put those words there. And
it.
then, okay, you have a gift that allows you to express, but other people, they're getting in a fight on the playground, or they're
Hmm.
not doing their homework, or the other side, they're excelling, right? Maybe they're the star student, but
Hmm.
there's still a way that they're not expressing. And that's great that you were able to find your way there. That there's so many places. One of the talks I give is I give myself permission. And
Hmm.
you had to give yourself permission in so many places, right? To be
Hmm.
that honest and vulnerable with Bishop Jakes, to then go explore for yourself, and then to face the truth of
Yeah,
all of that.
yeah, yeah,
That's a
man.
lot.
It was a lot, and then it became very challenging, but yet very beautiful.
Nice.
Because my therapy was don't fix anything,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then once I realized that, oh, the world don't need me,
No. Oh,
then now learn how to say what you think and how you feel all together. And it took me, but then once I started doing that, and my
it's
wife would tell
on.
you I wouldn't shut up. I was like, you know what? I'm confused. Like, I,
I got a lot of words. It's funny. Like, I have a son and daughter, and I'm often sharing with them what we call this feelings wheel. Right? It's really like a wheel of emotions, and it goes out to even more emotions and more. And then, like, whenever I bring them, like, oh, come on, they don't. It's like I don't want to do it, and I'm like, no, because we got to know our emotions. We got to talk because it's for those reasons where
that
it's
is
so
right.
important to like be aware of what we're thinking and what we're feeling, and to address it.
Hmm.
Jamal, I know there's like three versions of that we could have, and I'm fascinated by every aspect of that you're sharing. I'm curious, and then I'll ask you my last kind of wrap up questions.
Okay.
When you talk about being there with Bishop Jakes in Dallas, I remember hearing that, and what's interesting, my wife just got back from the last Woman That Are Loose conference
Hmm.
with her mother and had a great time there. And I know that you've probably been or played at
Hmm.
multiple of them.
Yeah.
Uh, what would you say was your takeaway, if any? There's probably multiple, but what do you feel? It sounds like understand that you needed to go do some work on your own about not having your father in your life from 3 on. what else would you say was a major takeaway from that phase of your life?
Well, in terms of it helped me to grow from a boy to a man in so many different respects. And TD Jakes is much in front of that and responsible for that.
Mm.
Because during my tenure there and my time there, and our relationship is no less diminished because I'm no longer an employee of the institution. Um, he guided me. I mean, gave me the opportunity to understand how the business of ministry.
Yeah.
And when I say it, sometimes it's seen as a negative context
No,
for
everything has a
many
business.
people. Yeah, everything has a business. One of the biggest takeaways for me is that if you break even, all you've done is tire yourself out.
Mm. Yeah, that's powerful.
Yo,
Yeah.
man, let me. He said, so like this is why you want to do more than break even,
Yeah.
because then you just expended the energy for what?
For nothing.
Yeah,
Especially when we think about service, ministry,
yeah.
like things that we feel like we should be doing out of the kindness of our heart.
Mm-hmm.
If you're tired over and over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
leads to burnout, leads to
Mm-hmm.
ways of expressing ourselves that's not healthy. It probably also leads to some bad choices, and we know
Yeah.
people have made some bad choices.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Another big lesson. I have like a little cadre of like good lessons. This other one is real good though. He who has his hands in everything only has his hands in two things.
Wow. Wow.
So you can't control everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you have to learn how to trust. All right. And this leads to the bigger lesson for me. When I was a younger leader, one time I said to him, I was like, man, I said, I can't get it all done. I can't, like, I'm trying to get all this stuff done. I can't get it done. He says, no, you'll never be able to get it all done. He says, that's why you got to find you 12 disciples. You teach them, and
Hmm.
then you let them do it. And I was like, oh,
That's what that's about.
yeah.
I've
So,
heard that somewhere.
I mean, when I tell you I'm the delegate king,
Wow.
not from a point of being lazy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I understand you can only do great things by delegating,
Yeah.
you know. So I go a step further because I like to understand what I'm delegating. So anything that I delegate is something that I definitely know how to do.
Okay.
I understand it. I know how to do it. I know the processes through it, and so on and so forth. So that way, when I'm delegating, sometimes I've managed people, and they're telling me like, they're having a challenge. Let's just say like a video editor will tell me he spent a whole week working on a 3-minute video. I'm like, why? Like, like
It's
you
like,
know,
come on now, son.
yeah, 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 yeah. Like, yeah, you have a time management issue if that
Yeah.
is true.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and we need to work on that. But those are some of the bigger ways. I think from this last Women Are Loose, one of the things that we all had the opportunity to see is a passing of a baton,
Yeah.
which is not truly indicative in the African American space, and definitely not in Black church.
No.
You know, everybody dies the pastor,
Yeah.
and we don't know who's going to lead it beyond, and all of that. We have to
There's a
go through
huge
all of
gap. The rebuilding takes forever,
that. Yeah.
right? People move on to someplace else. Like,
Hmm.
no, it was definitely powerful, and I think it was felt in multiple ways. Like I said, my wife and mother-in-law being there to just feel in so many ways, right? The mission, all of that, but like the modeling of it, because
Hmm.
yeah, some folks, especially a lot of pastors, leaders in black churches and across, they because it's a little bit of the power thing, and we see it even from like if we go all the way to the other side of a show like Succession, right?
Hmm.
And then you come all the way to like the black church, this thought of trying to hold on to power as long as you can
Hmm.
without really delegating and passing it on. So I
Yep.
do think that was powerful. So I want to ask you my last kind of four questions I would like to ask. Maybe might be more. One, what are you working on now? You've done amazing things, continue to do amazing things, been in been around just awesome people, and obviously you're awesome yourself. And so I know as a creative, as a intellectual, as someone who's just out there, you're probably always working on something. So what are you working on now?
Okay, so for me, I am working on a new record called Out Loud, Jamar Jones Out Loud. And I'm attempting to do something that I don't think has been done, not in our current generation at least, but I want to I want to just have a good time through music, let the piano be the voice at the center of a conversation, and I want to do it on the piano like the piano is almost an MC,
Oh, all right.
you know. So that's it's kind of Jamar Jones Out Loud. I've been working on that for a little bit. Producing a new Patti LaBelle record, uh,
Nice.
which has some amazing duets on it. One we did with Gregory Porter, there's another with Gladys, there's another with I'm missing somebody. Oh yeah, with Johnny Gill. Yeah, so working on some good music with her. Of course. What else am I doing? I'm writing a book. I've been working on a book, a manuscript called "If Dad Was Here,"
Mm,
a guide for the fatherless child and the fatherless father.
yeah.
I have a passion toward helping, just not just fatherless persons, but specifically men.
Yeah.
I think a lot of men have like myself. We're looking for answers, and like, yo, if Dad was here, what would he be telling?
Mhm.
At the same time, I have daughters, and I recognize how important it is for a woman to have the masculine influence
Mhm.
in her life, and that from a paternal standpoint, well, this can be that guide. Here you
Mhm.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some information to help you along your journey. That's another thing. And I'm finishing up a PhD on
Okay.
music. Yeah.
Nice.
So
I love it.
University of Tasmania. Yeah, that's my. I want to be done fast, but they won't let me.
No,
So
no, that's not how it goes.
I'm going through the process.
Look, I hear you. I look. Shout out to all the stuff that you're doing. Props to you. I love hearing that. I'm looking forward to hearing those projects. And we, like I said, we briefly, not briefly, but we connected around a fatherless
Hmm.
child project. And even in my own story, my father would, especially in my like kind of double digits on up, would go back and forth to Jamaica. And so there were
Wow.
moments where I would say what I've said to people, like he would be there for the big moments, but
Hmm.
small moments, right? That he wouldn't be there. And so, the thing about being fatherless is that there's people where your father was not there, period, or your
I
father was
understand.
absent. But then there was
Hmm.
people that I would put myself in that category where your father was missing from certain moments of your life that you can
Hmm.
tap into very similar things.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I think there's a whole range of folks, and maybe you and I will continue to talk through ways that to support as your ongoing efforts with that. You
Oh,
have had. Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I said I would love that. I
Yeah,
would love.
totally not. I think, like, I love our conversation. I want to have more of these conversations with you, and I think there's probably room for us to think about collaboration. So I'm looking forward to
Oh,
that.
let's do it. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
let's do it. And especially when I tell you about some of uh my date night ideas, because I love live music. I love this. Just helping couples, and I've been able to
Uh-huh.
do it in a few venues, and I think there probably could be some ways to even take up a few levels.
All right, let's do it. I'm
All
down.
right, all right, all right. That's it. Y'all heard him. You have had the ability to collab and work with just so many people, from the church, from the music industry, from movie world. Who would you want to collab with now if you had the chance? Maybe that you haven't, or maybe would you want to work with again?
Man, you know who I would really want to work with again, but will never have the chance to? John Singleton.
Oh, yeah,
And John Singleton was an incredible cheerleader of mine. Uh, he taught me a lot about writing music for film. Um, and I mean, he was just an amazing human being.
yeah,
To be
yeah.
quite honest, he's one that's in there. Of course, this is not because I played with her over the years, and not even because we have a great relationship. I'm talking, she's my sister, like, but I love working with um with Jill
Mm,
Scott.
yeah.
and her creativity is one that is just so unique and unusual.
Hmm.
You know, just the way her ability to communicate, uh, the way she communicates ideas and things. And as I am not even part now, I'm like fully in the ministry and like preaching, like we like always looking for the homiletical plot. You know, so if you think about Jill, you think about cross my mind after she tells this whole story, but at the end, and she says, "You was never good for me, and I was never good for you." I was just thinking about what we used to.
Like, it's not gonna happen again.
Yeah,
Right.
again,
Yeah. I was just reflecting.
like just the way she would put together those types of ideas has always been like an
Mhm.
amazing thing. I'm trying to think of some other people that are in there because I'm like I see different things in different people
Yeah.
that really inspire me, and I
Yeah.
walk away like really really being inspired. But one of the people that probably has inspired me the most, obviously, would be, and I've never had a chance to work with him, but I would love to. And even if working with him just mean we sat down and had a conversation like this,
Hmm.
would be Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, because one of the things I walked away after I watched his documentary is that he was able to channel into giving the best of himself to himself,
Mm.
like in a way he. And I think that's the thing that I'm just maybe coming around
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
not being afraid to do that.
Yeah.
Like need giving myself permission, as you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Like, I have no problem giving the best of myself to others,
Yeah.
but it was just such a challenge to even fatherless child is not all that I really wanted it to be, but it was the best as I could get it out to articulate.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping as I keep recording albums,
Hmm.
then I get to the point where everything I give everybody else, like
That you
I
give to
worked on The
yourself.
Greatest Showman, blockbuster hit, 175 million, 200 million at the box office, and like everybody's like, "Oh man, this music is incredible." So to have be a part of those types of things, I was like, "Yeah, I want to give that to me though."
Yes. Yes. Oh,
Like
my daughter
not
is gonna be happy. She always talks about that movie. She always wants to see that movie. So I'm gonna tell. I know somebody who was a part of that movie. I'm gonna tell her.
absolutely. That's me, Adam Black. That's actually all Philly guys, believe it or not.
Really?
That's me, Adam Blackstone, Clay Sears, Randy Bolin, and the only non-Philly guy. He's from St. Louis. Is the drummer. That was Charles Haynes, who Charles incidentally was in the Grammy band with me when I was.
That's crazy. I love like how all that just continues to flow. All right,
Hmm.
two last questions.
Yep. Hmm.
What would you say is your definition of mental wellness?
Whew, that's a
How?
good one. I think mental wellness for me is being completely free, being completely free mentally. And when I say like free from anxiety, fear, um, and I think inside mental well-being has as much to do. It was just all internal. It's like, yo, man, your heart is good, which means your mind is good. When the heart is sick, then the mind is sick.
Yeah.
I think mental wellness, we're able to really achieve that, and everybody has their way to it. My way to it is through faith in Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
No.
know, it's something about reading his example that was has been left for me that helps me to understand what I can achieve as a human being. At least this is the highest level of human possibility. Now, we don't always get there. We fall
Hmm.
short of it quite often, but it gives me something, it gives me an object to have hope in and hope for and faith in, whether it's faith in people, faith in myself.
Yeah.
I can believe that, maybe if I fast for 40 days and 40 nights, maybe I have some type of power. That's a long time.
It's a long time. But that really sparked. This is a bonus question for me. Like you've talked about like your faith journey, and you've talked about like your gifting and musical journey, and I know sometimes those places can contradict. How
Hmm.
have you balanced like your faith and your gifting in all the spaces you've had to go in?
Well, you know what? They actually don't contradict.
Okay.
They actually are complementary of one another. Let me tell you this. So I think it's Book of Deuteronomy. This is in the Book of Deuteronomy. What we see from God is God doesn't just have this concern about us, say, in a synagogue or in a religious context, but how we interact with Him in His ways, in His being, is really in our community in the world. He lays it out in the Book of Deuteronomy as such, right? So like, okay, so like my work is sacred.
Yeah.
Yeah, work that I do in and of itself is sacred. How about this? I'll take it a step further, that I think sacred and secular don't even exist.
Yeah. Exactly.
So like we start calling things, and then it's like, oh, then that's that, and that's that.
Hmm.
It's just like, no, like, yo, man, like, so when it comes to being in an environment, now when it comes to destructive behavior,
Yeah.
that's a completely different ball of wax, because some people are more prone to be addicted to destructive behavior than others. So if everybody's smoking weed, I'm smoke weed, or everybody shooting up crack, I'm gonna shoot crack.
Hmm.
If everybody's reading the Bible, I'm gonna read the Bible.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I was like, okay, like that. So for me, I've always had like this balance or in a need to just like, the only thing that we is only two commandments: that you love God with your heart, mind, and soul, love your neighbor as yourself. If you could do those two things and whatever that is, all right, I'll tell this one little story. I was in the studio with Usher, so I co-wrote a song, "Here I Stand." It's an
Mhm.
Usher song, and I was sitting in the studio. I was on my computer, and this guy, he comes into the lounge and he puts some, like, probably some weed or marijuana on the desk or whatever, and on the table, and he starts to roll up, and I'm really not paying him much mind. I'm just there, and after a while, he looks at me. He says, "Man, do you mind if I roll up?" I said, "This is public space. This is not. I don't own the studio." He just said, "I just don't want to offend the God that you serve."
Mm.
I was like, "Yeah, well," I said, "Do as you feel comfortable." He just got up and left.
Hmm. I didn't need to say nothing.
Yeah, I wasn't even in there. I wasn't like wearing a Jesus shirt.
Right. Right.
As a matter of fact, I had a Biggie Small shirt on
Right.
that day. Like, I'm like, yeah, it was nothing about me that I thought was like, oh man, look, I am. So then I learned this lesson. So this is the answer to your question, where, because the reason why I don't think there's conflict
Hmm.
is because I learned this lesson that lights don't make noise. They just give illumination. And
Yeah.
if you are that, like, if I'm telling you I'm the light, guess what? I'm not the light.
Yeah. 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 You
It's as simple as that.
just go and shine. I love it. All right.
Yeah.
Last question. What
Yeah.
mental wellness advice would you give to your earlier self? And that could be as early as yesterday or any time in your past.
Oh man, I would have gone to therapy much younger. I would have told myself, you need to process, because had I processed through some of my difficulties early on in life, I think I wouldn't have had some relationship challenges that I had along the way,
Yeah.
and just in communication challenges,
Yeah.
and with just being a free individual. Now, I also understand that my condition brought out a beauty, and brought out a lot of opportunity for me.
Hmm.
And so, like, when it comes to mental wealth advice, I would have gave to myself, I would have helped myself to achieve musical excellence and expression, but at the hopefully without sacrificing, becoming like the many artists that we know, Michael Jackson, Prince
Yeah.
come to mind.
Yeah.
You know, Extremely talented, and
Yeah.
people, we celebrated their talent, but we didn't care about them as a person.
Yeah.
So like that, just that part. So like my mental wellness advice to myself is, boy, go to therapy, get yourself together, and be great. So then that way you can help other people and then be even greater at what you do. So, and I'll say this one last thing, because before, I had to use the piano as a means of expression. It was my prison and I
Yeah.
didn't know it.
Wow.
But now I can tell you how I feel,
Hmm.
and I can express how I feel. So I can say, like, yo, George, you're a great brother. I appreciate you. I think you are a wonderful human being. or I can play you a song. I can play "I Love You,
Right.
You Love Me."
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
However I choose to get it out, as
Yeah.
opposed to
Only
I
have it
was
one way.
like, I'm not stuck in the mental prison anymore. So,
No, I love that, and I appreciate how as you have been able to do that work for yourself, you recognize even I mean it's so powerful. Even our gifting and talent can be our prison
mm-hmm.
until we find the real proper ways to express ourselves and to deal with whatever we're feeling or going through. And so I really appreciate everything that you shared. I know like there's like a part 2 and 3 to this conversation, maybe even
You say
part
when,
6.
I'm ready. You
All
say
right.
when,
All
I'm
right.
ready.
I look. I will definitely hit you up with that because I love like your journey, and there's so many parts that I think we could even dig in further. But I appreciate your time coming here, sharing, talking about all this stuff, and I'm so happy for the impact that you've made, on so many people's lives through the gift and beauty of music, through ministry, through your family, through your character. It's just so awesome to just hear like what you've done to this date, and there's so much more that you'll be able to do. So before we end, is there any last words you want to share to put out there?
Whew, man, of course, y'all know I can talk a lot.
We both
um,
can. It's all good. That's why we could go another 2 more parts.
Any last words that well, this is last word. I'm gonna share something that people that are watching will never forget. There's nothing to be learned from the second kick of a mule.
Right. You should have learned it from the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
That's my thought for the day, and I don't know why that came to mind, but
Oh, what's interesting about that is like I feel like I've always been somebody that I could learn from other people's mistakes, right?
hmm
And then I could also learn from the first mistake that I might make. And if you do that, I think you can grow as a person. But if you keep making the same mistake over and over,
Mm-mm.
you might really go
Yeah,
need to talk to somebody because there's a reason why you're doing that, and so you might need to. You're sabotaging yourself. So let's get that worked out.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh,
I'm
Jamar.
looking forward to. There's something I want to talk to you about. I have an idea to come up with the soundtrack for the daddy daughter dance. So
Oh, all
we'll
right.
we'll talk through that, and yeah, that's it. I'm excited. Thank you for sharing and allowing me to talk to your audience. I appreciate that.
No, hey, Jamar, thank you for being here and being a part of LEAPCAST. I really appreciate it. Wow.
Yes.
What an incredible ride we just went on with another great member of the LEAPCAST community. I appreciate you listening and hope you got some tangible value from the episode. Please let us know what you think by leaving a comment, rating, and review. As always, please don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This is Dr. George James, and I'll see you next time.